We've definitely had an uptick in Shopify clients. Today, I noticed a post on LinkedIn that is about accessibility widgets and Shopify stores. So let's go ahead and see what Sam Wright posted. We've been noticing a definite uptick in ADA compliance complaints targeting Shopify stores recently. Again, same. Many of these are spurious to say the least, but they are still stressful for merchants. But here is the part that is quite concerning. If you upload one of these demand letters into ChatGPT, to see what it would advise. It recommends installing an accessibility overlay like Accessibility as the solution. It even acknowledges that it's a controversial option and that's because it's got the potential to make things considerably worse. There's a very strong case that you're more than likely to face compliance action by having an accessibility overlay than not. So yeah, if you go to ChatGPT or other LLMs and you ask about overlay widgets, what can come up is that it will tell you something is controversial. Well, if it says controversial, that usually means bad. That's the euphemism that AI uses to. It's like it's like AI's version of saying crazy or wild. Right now, a lot of people say crazy or wild when they really mean bad or horrible or something along those lines. When AI says controversial, that means it doesn't. The AI wants to be more diplomatic. And so when it's diplomatic, it says controversial rather than there are plaintiffs' lawyers who actually specifically look for websites with overlay widgets installed. So this has always been the recommendation. I still have clients like to this day in 2026 that will come to me, and when they come to me, they have an accessibility overlay widget installed. This has been ingrained. This is something that is very difficult to reverse, but it is so important to know that this isn't helping you, right? Like as this post says, it's there are plaintiffs lawyers who specifically look for websites with overlay widgets installed because that in part that lets them know that you've taken a shortcut and that you very likely may be under the false impression that this overlay widget is actually, let's say, making your website WCAG conformant or ADA compliant, which it is not. This has been the case. They're still pushed, they're still sold, and usually the marketing message is that the overlay widget supports ADA compliance or it helps somehow. And here, what we see from ChatGPT is a screenshot, and we've got how to fix the site. Step one, install an accessibility baseline immediately. And then it reads, this is not sufficient alone, but it helps. But notice that it doesn't state how it helps. Okay, specifically tell me how this widget actually helps me in preventing a lawsuit. It doesn't tell you because it can't. There are no specifics. There is nothing that states you are less likely to receive a lawsuit or to be sued or to receive a demand letter because you have this accessibility widget. It's just something that is talked about, and it's come largely it's being pushed by the companies, the vendors that are selling overlay widgets, but there's nothing definitive that tells you, hey, this actually helps you in terms of accessibility. So you've got this overlay, it's installed on your website. A lot of people feel better, like they've done something, but that something doesn't fundamentally remediate your code or your content, which is what you're actually trying to do. And that's what you actually need to do to reduce your risk of a lawsuit. So as you fix more and more issues, your percentage chance of being sued is going to come down. And the way we know this is because you look through the complaints that are filed in court, and if you go through those complaints, you know what plaintiffs' lawyers are looking for. I have completed this exercise. So the I'm working you're working with that. If you start with the issue that is claimed the most, you fix that, you make sure it's resolved, you make sure that you eliminate that from your website, then you continue on with the next. And as you keep going, there are less and less issues that are going to be there for a plaintiff's lawyer to claim that your website isn't ADA compliant, et cetera. And so that's what you want to do. The end objective is full WCAG conformance, but there are different approaches here, right? You might just decide, hey, I'm going to fix as much as I can as fast as I can. If you're taking that approach, I highly recommend my course because then you know these issues that come up over and over again. And something that separates my course from any of the information that you'll find publicly is there are specific issues that plaintiffs' lawyers key in on, and they're not always directly tied to the web content accessibility guidelines. So it's very important to know exactly what they're looking for. And if you've gone through the complaints that are filed in court, and if you extract that information, especially if you aggregate that information across all of these active plaintiffs' law firms, the picture of what to do becomes much more clear than it initially is. Yes, you can work through the web content accessibility guidelines, but as everyone knows, it takes you time to get through the web content accessibility guidelines. So especially for Shopify store owners, I recommend being aggressive and having a strategy, because the strategy can make all of the difference. I'll link to my ADA compliance course in the description. And starting with the scans and the errors I flagged by a scan is a really good start, but it's just a start. It's not where I would stop. And it's not that plaintiffs' lawyers only use scans. That's another myth that I've heard. I've heard this from defense attorneys, and it's not. They definitely don't stop at scans. You have to remember that this is an industry for them. Some of them are making millions, if not tens of millions. And when you look at the most active plaintiffs' law firms, they very well could be in the hundreds of millions of dollars off of suing website owners. So no, they are not going to stop at a scan. It's something that some plaintiffs' lawyers use, right? And it's definitely something where you'd want to make sure there are no issues that are showing on a scan. But I wouldn't just stop at Wave or Google Lighthouse or even Axe Scan. You want to go beyond that. So I recommend my course if you want to go if you want to go with the audit route, then you're going to work towards full WCAG conformance, which is optimal. It's optimal to have zero technical accessibility issues. And we could talk about even user testing if you're going through accessible.org for services, but not everybody can afford services. Audits are usually at least, they're coming in at least $1,000 for most Shopify store owners. So you could always start with a mini audit where you're just going for a few pages and then you continue on from there. But yeah, going back to the widgets, don't install a widget. It's not a temporary solution. People have this in their mind. It's a temporary solution. I would ask you, where did you get that idea, right? Tell me the actual underlying basis for having that idea that it's some kind of temporary solution. A lot of website owners, it's completely emotional. It's completely marketing messaging. There's nothing actually concrete behind this idea that they need to have a widget installed. And it's just something that is put out in the marketplace. It's sold and it's easy. And a lot of people gravitate towards it, even in 2026. But it's not been the case. Overlayfactsheet.com can help you understand that this is very real. It's not making your website WCAG conformant. It's just an overlay. Yes, it can superficially fix a few issues if it fixes them correctly. It doesn't always do that. But very importantly, with plaintiffs' lawyers, it's for some of the plaintiffs' lawyers, it's actually an indicator that you are ready to. Your website is one that they can target and target easily because you're relying upon this. And having read through the complaints, I can tell you, I have read in the complaints specifically, plaintiffs' lawyers state that they have installed this overlay widget, which does not resolve the underlying issues, etc. So you can read through the complaints. I have videos going back at least a year, 2 years, where I talk about this, and we actually look through the complaints and look at the letters in black and white. We can see the plaintiff's lawyers talking negatively about the overlay widget. So if you are of the mindset that you need an overlay widget, where did you get this from? Is it from one of the videos where they're making an affiliate commission off of the overlay widget? It usually is. I've seen a few newer Shopify videos where the person has no idea what they're talking about and they're recommending these overlay widgets. And so that's what's happened for a long time. We've seen a lot of these recommendations and they are unfounded. There's nothing there besides marketing hype. But when people are installing overlay widgets, it's usually because they think that they are a way to stop a lawsuit or to at least reduce their risk. And there's no underlying basis that you can find that overlay widgets actually do this. In fact, if you search for any overlay widget brand and search for lawsuits, you can usually find all of the information you need to know. And so when you sign up for a subscription and you're paying $50 a month, you're really paying $50 a month for hype. There's nothing, it's not there. The WCAG conformance, the ADA compliance, the stopping the lawsuits, it's not there. You can see because you can read the complaints filed in court. And I've read through hundreds of these complaints and they're very similar. And it's really the same things that are happening, generally the same things that are happening over and over again. Some plaintiffs' lawyers, they take a slightly different approach, but really it comes down to this. They look for technical accessibility issues, at least their interpretation of the technical issue. If they have enough, then they go ahead and they'll publish those in the complaint, or they will write those in the complaint, and then they will say, because of these issues, you have violated my client's rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act or any other potential state law, local law, and then they will say they are entitled to damages as a result. That's the general basis. So think about it. A few accessibility issues. Some plaintiffs' lawyers, they will have the issues, and they won't. they won't even be tied to your website. It'll just be like they'll name off their standard 5 or 6, and then it's not a matter of like, yeah, you can actually find these on your website. It's more just a matter of they use those, and then for you to go through the trouble of defending it, they know it would be more troublesome to do that, so they can always go look and find more. So depending on the plaintiff's lawyer, there are potential ways to there's strategy involved, and I talk about this in my war room where I have this 2.5 hours of me talking through strategy on making your website ADA compliant and preventing these lawsuits to begin with. If you are watching this, especially if you're a Shopify store owner, because Shopify store owners are targeted relentlessly, but anyone, if you're a dentist's office, an art gallery, restaurants, and it doesn't matter how small your operation is. You could be a small business with less than $50,000 in annual revenue. That does not matter. You can still be sued. But if you have not been sued yet, then this is a great time to just go ahead go ahead and take care of this right now. The point of this video is going right along with this LinkedIn post. It's not the overlay widgets. Don't pay $50 a month for the overlay widgets. Don't do it. Do not pay for an overlay widget. Instead, actually fix the issues. So when I say actually fix the issues, like you actually need to fix the issues, you will need someone with a development background. It's better to be aggressive, even if you don't get everything right the first time. I would rather start and make progress than just wait on it or use an overlay widget and make zero progress. Start fixing the issues, even if it's just alt text and alt text like image related issues. So that is the number one most commonly claimed issue. If you look in the complaints filed in court, missing alternative text comes up over and over again, and there are a few issues related to that. So images, image accessibility, very, very important. Of course, do not stop there. That's just one issue, but that also tells you it's not always about the WCAG success criteria. There's sometimes an indirect tie, but it's not specifically about the web content accessibility guidelines. Yes, if you're fully conformant, then there should be no problems, but it's not always about that. It's knowing what the plaintiff's lawyers are looking for, and then you'll be much, much better off. So that's going to do it for this video. If you need help with your accessibility, feel free to reach out to me. I will include a contact link in the description. Also, my ADA compliance course can help you. It has direct information so that you can get started as soon as possible. And the course is here to give you an excellent idea, like really like you get vision into what plaintiffs lawyers are looking for over and over again, and we get into the technical side, not just theory, not just, hey, we're talking about this, but I go through this and talk step by step. Here is exactly what I would do, and here is the order in which I would do it. So the ADA compliance course, I'll include a link to that in the description as well. But the most important takeaway from this video: do not install an overlay widget.